Hey YouTube, this is our take on the Nikon Z9. So,
Big news.
yeah, so there's been a lot of big news about the Z9. We probably won't be going into the specs a lot because you can go to DP Review or you can go to the Nikon website just to find those exact specs. But what we're going to talk about today in this video is why we think the Z9 is a fierce competitor in the mirrorless space and basically what us Nikon users have been waiting for.
That's right. We're Nikon users. How long have we been using the Z series for?
It's been
Kind
about
of since it came out.
Yeah, since it came out. So what? Came out 3 years ago.
Yeah, I guess so. 3 years.
This video is about why we're excited about the Z9.
Mm-hmm.
So their specs and everything like the Z6 and Z7 II, the Mark IIs of their lineup, they've been working great for us. But as far as the market, what we see the market wants, like faster autofocus, great eye detect, birds in flight, eye autofocus, lots of animals and things like that, even motorsports. So we've been seeing the market really wanting those features in, the pro mirrorless bodies. And this is really a time where Nikon is coming out and saying, yes, we can compete, we can do all of that too. And to me that's...
But better.
And better.
So far, from what we've heard. We don't know yet.
From what we've seen, all the promo videos, everything coming out from these pre-production Nikon Z9 bodies, everything looks really great, really promising, like it has a lot of potential. We'll see what happens when the actual production models get in the hands of normal day-to-day people like Mark and I, other YouTubers, which it's kind of sad. We don't see a lot of people talking about Nikon in YouTube.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Like YouTubers always talk about Sony, they always talk about Canon. We figured we would come out with a Nikon Z9 video, just talk about it, why we're excited about it.
What we would do with it.
Yeah, basically what we would do with it. Now let's actually get into the features of the Z9 that we're excited for.
So one of the biggest things that I'm excited for the Z9, the video features, are the 8K capability at 30 frames, and then it goes down from there. With the later firmware update, you'll be able to do 4K ProRes RAW internally, so we won't need an Atomos recorder anymore, Atomos Ninja 5 or anything like that. And then for the 8K, you'll be able to do 12-bit 8K NRAW. So NRAW is Nikon's their own custom version of N-Log. That'll be interesting to see if that NRAW will look better than our traditional N-Log. You might get more dynamic range. The colors, if it's coming directly from Nikon, supposedly they'll be able to handle their own colors better. That might be nice to try, the NRAW, because then you'll use Nikon's internal NRAW at 12-bit. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, 12-bit is crazy good.
And then Nikon's own LUT. So if they're controlling the whole thing, the color might come out more accurate or more consistent between shots, or it might be easier to expose it correctly if they control every aspect of the process. But I guess we'll see. N-Log right now with the Atomos recorder is pretty handy. It takes some getting used to of how to expose it correctly and to make sure you get it right every time. Colors look good though, so that's nice, and dynamic range is nice. So that'll be cool to see what NRAW does. That's new.
Yeah. And then also the good thing about all the video features is out of the box, it's all going to be 10-bit.
Yeah. It'll also be nice because we only have one Atomos recorder, but we have 3 cameras, so
yeah,
there's a trade-off. But it'll be nice to be able to do 10-bit on all the cameras, and then just be able to cover more shots. But even for narrative filmmaking, it might be kind of cool to have the internal, the 12-bit RAW in the Nikon Z9, even though it's a bigger body. So your camera rig is going to be bigger for it. You won't have to have the external recorder to get all the dynamic range out of it like you do now. So that body's bigger, but you don't need a monitor anymore, so you have more room for a focus puller and stuff like that, a matte box.
Yeah, in their videos, the Nikon produced videos, they showed the Z9 in a matte box.
Did they really?
Yeah, they did. In one
I
of
missed
them.
that one.
So they're really trying to push this as a video camera also, or a camera that's capable of doing video.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't know, but 4K, it'd be cool to be able to do 4K, 60 frame per second slow motion video. Even the higher rates, like 120, you can do.
Yeah, 120.
Yeah.
120p.
Even though it's, what is it, line skipping and it's not reading the
it might be, yeah.
one to one.
Yeah, so DP review, they were saying that the higher frame rates on the 4K, like 60p and 120p, there might be some sort of pixel binning or line skipping happening, just so that Nikon can get those faster readouts happening at those frame rates. So we're not quite sure what is going on yet, but we know that it looks like the 4K 20p is a little bit crisper, a little bit sharper than the 4K 120 and 4K 60p. But to me, that's no big deal.
Yeah, I think it'd be okay.
I mean, that's like when you're cropping in, where you really see the loss in detail.
Yeah, my slow motion stuff, I have to, my Z6, the Mark 1, whatever, it jumps down to 1080, so that's not the greatest.
Yeah.
That's pretty outdated now.
Okay, so I mostly use my Nikon mirrorless cameras for photo. For me, mostly this is what I've been using as my daily carry, what I do for work. Yeah, so I'm a wedding, portrait, and brand photographer, so that's what I mostly do with my Nikon mirrorless Z7 II. There's only some kind of pain points that I might have in a wedding day, or some let's put it more like niceties that I think would come in with a Nikon Z9. Number one, it's the ergonomics. I shoot vertical a lot, and so always having to kind of bring the camera up like this and hold it around and take photos, it's kind of taxing on your shoulder and elbow. It would be nice to be able to support the lens with my left hand and shoot vertically like this, because I do that a lot, and this is almost constantly. Like, most of the time, people are wanting more vertical photos than landscapes now, just because of social media, so it's a lot easier just to have that vertical grip. One of the biggest pain points that I do have, that I run into and I butt heads a lot with, is also the autofocus. But with the Z9, it sounds like it would just be nice to have that 3D tracking now, where I can place the focus box anywhere on the subject, like the body, the neck, torso, and then the subject tracking recognizes it as a person or as a subject that I want, whether it be a animal or person or planes, trains, cars, you name it, up to 9 subjects or something like that. Have it recognize it, and then go to the area that I want. For humans, I always want the eyes, or the eye that's closest to me, to be in focus, and just having that kind of flexibility and that intelligence is really something that, I think would be a game changer for me. Like, not only would it give me more confidence in the gear that I'm using, but it would also give me more freedom to be a little bit more creative and not have to take so many redundant shots just to know that I nailed focus the first time. Another photo feature that I'm really excited about is the new sensor. So it's a 45.7 megapixel BSI stacked CMOS sensor, and there's absolutely no mechanical shutter. And to me, that's really crazy, and that's actually a leap forward, and that's what I think is kind of a game changer. You can shoot completely silent. Everything that you hear is basically just a
little speaker making a noise.
Yeah, it's like a synthetic mechanical shutter sound. So that's just audible feedback for you to hear when you're taking the photos. But also, that's not just a gimmick, because there's actual, like, practical things that you can do with a non-mechanical shutter. So you can shoot at a much higher shutter speed. This one goes up to 32,000. So far, our Z6, our Z7 IIs, almost everything that you have on the market, their max shutter speed is 1/8,000th of a second. And so compared to a electronic shutter that shoots at 1/32,000th of a second, that's extremely fast. So you can do things like, you can shoot wide open with a 1.2 lens without an ND, and and just have it come out as you want it. I tend to not use the electronic shutter in these mirrorless cameras because I just don't trust it. But with the Z9, you're having a sensor readout that matches or exceeds the sensor readout of the mechanical shutter. And so that, with things like that, you don't have to worry about rolling shutter, or you don't have to worry about any of those anomalies that, that I would previously worry about. It's just going to be the same quality, same expression that you would get from a mechanical shutter in the electronic shutter. So with this, there's also no blackout while you're taking photos, and part of that feedback, there's also the audible feedback, and there's also visual feedback that you can get. So that's one of the things that I'm also really excited for. So
Like the burst mode, you mean?
yeah, like the burst modes. So at the top you can shoot 120 frames per second, which is just 11 megabytes, which is still a printable file. Those are still really good files. It's just a JPEG, so I don't know if I would be able to really make the kind of edits that I want on it. And then you have 30 frames per second, which is at a full sensor readout, but that's also at a JPEG. And then the one that I'm really excited for is 20 frames per second, full RAW, and that's 14-bit RAW. So another feature that I'm really excited for is the multi-angle screen. I like having the ability to, flip out the screen horizontally, but that might also be nice to be able to do it vertically. Because since I'm shooting a lot of vertical photos, it might be nice to have that screen flip out.
I like that.
Oh, sorry, I know I keep going on more things, but also these batteries, from what I've been seeing from all these pre-production models from the Z9, the battery life seems to last just forever.
They use the chunky ones, that's why.
Yeah, they use the chunky ones, but also it seems like what they're doing inside the Z9 seems to be even more battery efficient. So it's just, even though the battery is chunkier and it's rated for a longer lifespan per charge, it's just what they're doing inside. It's just making that battery last forever. So there have been things like people have been shooting all day and they've only gotten down to like half the battery.
That's shooting though. It'd be interesting to see what video does. Because I know when we do video, the battery doesn't last at all.
Yeah.
You gotta swap them out and keep them charging.
Even for a wedding day though, I actually have to change batteries on these at least twice. Or sorry, at least once. So I would go through at least one full battery on here, maybe a full battery on my B camera, and then I'd have to replace it just to get to the reception, basically. So
the new battery, or it's not a new battery, is it?
it's the same model battery as the D5 and D6.
Okay.
But they did develop a new battery that has a higher milliamp lifespan.
I like it'll be cool just to put the battery in because you do that little, and then.
I know, yeah. I feel like
that'll be fun.
These are a little wimpy.
The little trap doors are wimpy. Yeah.
And then you like have and then the battery.
I like the
out.
thing that pops out. You unload the spring thing and the battery flies out. That's fun.
Yeah, that's fun.
But the trap door, it's just flimsy. I can never tell if it's fully locked in. I mean, it does a little click, but it'll be nice to go.
Oh, speaking of locking things, I'm also excited for the locking card door because
What do you mean?
there's a little lock on the Z9 card door that makes it harder for you to
accidentally
open it.
All right, so that's a little bit of our take on the Z9, everything we know, kind of what we're excited for, why Landon might upgrade, who knows? But yeah, so the Z9 is really exciting. I like the video features that they're coming out with. Seems like their photo sector took a big jump forward too. Yeah, I would wait to see what more people say about it before trying one out. But it's nice to see Nikon still killing the game.
Yeah, it really is. I'm excited for the Z9 and what it means for the rest of the mirrorless lineup. So maybe we'll see some of that Z9 technology for autofocus, or we'll see whatever, trickle down into their other cameras like the Z7 II, Z6 II, maybe even the Mark 1s of those.
There's no hope for the Mark 1. They're done with that one, okay. I think.
Yeah, but I mean, we're supposed to get a second firmware update, like a big second firmware update for the Mark IIs. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed that it's like, has to do with that crazy good autofocus, maybe 3D tracking that the Z9 has. Right now, it feels like it's in the league of the Sony A1, which I know everybody raves about the Sony A1 and how powerful of a camera that is, but the Z9 is really a huge competitor, and I don't think people should write it off just because it's a Nikon.
It'll be fun to see what people say, how to poo-poo it.
Yeah, yeah, but I feel like there's a lot of There's a lot of silent Nikon users that, you know, all the loud people are either Sony or Canon users, and they talk the loudest, or they have the loudest social media following and everything. But there's a huge silent Nikon base.
Because I don't think Nikon people really care about convincing other people.
No, because they know that their gear is worth it, and that's why they buy it.
A lot of it's also just what you're comfortable using and what you've started on, kind of.
Yeah.
But because it's a huge deal to switch platforms.
Yeah, you're talking about all your lenses,
Yeah.
sometimes your cards. Yeah. And
Yeah.
even your workflow, like changing your workflow is a huge hassle.
Because you have to get used to then a whole new, like what to expect out of a camera, and then knowing how to set it, at least color wise and exposure, to know that you'll be able to compensate for whatever in your editing process.
Yeah.
And to learn a whole new system like that just makes it hard to switch. But
Let's
Yeah.
hear it for Nikon. Maybe we'll get our hands on a Nikon Z9. We'll come back. Maybe we'll come back with another video and just show you what it's all about in hands. But you know, for now, that's why we're really excited about this camera, about this new flagship, and it's a true flagship Nikon body, Nikon camera, and you know, I'm excited to see what it does for the industry, what it does for Nikon, and we'll see what happens from there.
yeah, it'd be cool. If you're a Canon or Sony, just feel free to hit that unlike button twice.
All right, see you guys.
All right, bye.